Hey everyone, welcome to the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston Subdivision, an N-scale inspired HO layout. My name is Daryl Kruse, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for episode 12 of season 2022. This episode was supposed to be about doing some scenery work, but as you can see, not any progress since last time. My plan was to begin work by painting the track and the rails. And then I was going to tape that off and then start painting the scenery. Well, as I began this process, I found out that my airbrush hose had broken off one of the fittings. And so it was no longer usable. And so I ordered a new hose from Amazon.com. And it came in and it was the wrong size fitting for my airbrush. So I had to order it again. And the second one was correct by that time, though it was Friday. In the intervening days, while I was waiting, I began work on the new room, the last room that needed to be finished in order to complete the first level of the layout. This will house the Evanston yard, and it's been kind of a collection point for a lot of junk. I have some of my daughter's boxes that she's having me store, a bunch of other stuff, and some basically just it's been a mess. And so in order to start working on getting this finished out, of course the first thing I needed to do was get it cleaned up. So I moved all the boxes to different parts of the basement, mainly under the layout in different places. There's lots of room under the layout for storage, which is kind of nice. And then I swept it. I think it's the first time this area's been swept out. And I got everything cleaned up so that I could start finishing out this area. After I had cleaned everything up, I did rearrange some of the scrap lumber. Not sure what I'm going to do with all that scrap lumber, but here's where I was up to this point. And then I had things cleaned out and ready to go. The next step was to put in some lighting. So I used the same kind of lighting that I have used throughout the basement. Took 6 fixtures here. As you can see, it definitely dramatically lights up the area nicely. This is an outlet that it's all plugged into. I have one circuit totally dedicated to the white LED lighting that I have throughout the basement. I think I'm up to, I calculated I'm up to about 11, almost 12 amps of lights, and it's on the 15 amp circuit. So I really cannot add too many more lights. This is pretty much it, but that's okay because this is the last area of the basement. And as you can see, it's all lit up. Mahomes is there as the first dispatcher. Then I also began to do the framing for this area. And as you can see, I kind of had to frame around the sewer line. From one wall to the other, as far as the concrete goes, is 12 feet. But by the time I had to frame around the sewer lines and the insulation, it's going to be like 11 feet. This is a little area that I had to set up to house the water line that comes into the house, and it's also going to be an angled here. I still have to frame out this section. As you can see, I'm not completely done. But you have an area where the sewer line goes out of the house with the clean out, so I had to have that area is going to be kind of at an angle for the wall and access to there, and the same thing for the water line that comes in. It's going to be an angled wall, and then you'll be able to crawl into that area in case there's any service that needs to be done. And this area here, I'm not going to finish. The layout's going to be in front of this, and so by the time I put the layout there with the backdrops, both levels, it's going to go all the way to the ceiling. So that's going to be covered up. One other thing I tried to address, the Hobby Innovations no longer makes the flex bed. So I'm going to have to transition over to cork. There's a height difference. The one thing I like about the flex bed is it's 3/8 of an inch high. The cork for HO scale is much thinner than that, so I'm going to have to go with some N scale cork. That's 1/8 of an inch underneath the HO cork. That's going to be kind of expensive, so I've been looking at using this track bed by Woodland Scenics, which is also 1/8 of an inch. This costs like $4.50, and it's 12 inches wide, so I can cut 3 strips of 4-inch wide foam for going underneath the HO track. So we should be able to still have the same height that I had with a flex bed. And actually this is going to be a little bit cheaper. But I definitely wanted to have the added height so that when you go to the secondary track, you have height differential between the main line and then the secondary track. So you could have the secondary track a little bit lower, and then there'll be some track that actually doesn't have any road bed at all, and that'll be even lower still. So it's good to have a little bit of a grade difference between all the different classifications of track. Now, one other thing I've been doing is inventorying all my equipment that I've been purchasing, and I have been purchasing a lot of equipment. I think I'm up to 29 locomotives, and so I used Microsoft Access, which is a database program, set up a little table and form, and I entered in all the locomotives that I had, included all the information, including manufacturer numbers, what I paid for it, and what the approximate resale. What I'm trying to do here is that there would be a resource for, in the event that I pass away here or I'm no longer around, my family can be able to sell the equipment and recoup a lot of the money. I have been using all the N-scale equipment that I have been selling, and I know a lot of you probably have been thinking, where am I getting all the money to buy all this equipment? Here's the rolling stock that I have. Oh, this is actually a local roster. You can also have like an Excel table from the same information. Here's the freight roster, same kind of thing. I'm trying to make sure that I have the information for insurance, for when they need to sell it when I'm gone. And also I'll probably use the rolling stock information for making sure I have the right ratio of equipment, and the same as what's on the prototype. So anyway, I've been buying a lot of equipment. It's not because I'm wealthy by any means. It basically has come from the fact that I've taken 50 years of N-scale collecting, and I have sold that and have been doing very well in selling it. And I've been using all the money from selling that 50-year collection, and it's all gone into buying equipment for the HO layout, but also actually for the construction of the layout as well. So I don't have very much left. I have, I think, 13 items left, so funds from the N-scale collection have pretty much dried up. And I do have money left still to buy a couple of coal car trains. So Athearn just came out with these coal cars, bathtub gondolas, and I pre-ordered these over a year ago, and I'm getting enough cars for 2 trains. One of the trains is going to be the CMHX cars, so I'm going to be getting about 42 of these. And CMHX is Car Math Incorporated. It's a leasing company, car leasing company. I have no idea if these are used on the Evanston Sub, but they are a leasing company, so it's definitely plausible that the Union Pacific would use these to haul coal on the Evanston Sub. And then the other train is going to be made up of these cars, and these are just the Union Pacific coal hoppers. I should say bathtub gondolas. So I have 42 of these also. So we'll have 2 coal trains going in opposite directions, and we'll be able to have some coal train operations. I did some research on the Evanston Sub, and the coal traffic goes from Wyoming to Nevada mostly. Those were the coal trains that I could find on the Evanston Sub, was hauling coal from the Wyoming coal fields to power plants in Nevada. So on the Geneva Sub, all the coal went from west to east, and empties went from east to west. On the Evanston Sub, it's going to be the other way around. The loads are going to go from east to west, and then the empties are going to go from west to east. But we definitely are going to have coal train operations on the layout. I know that may not be politically correct since coal is not favored too much, and they basically are. It's probably going to be a day when there's not going to be any more coal trains, but I like coal trains, so there are going to be coal trains on the layout. The last thing I'd like to share with you is the work schedule that I kind of put together to complete all the work to get trains running from Green River all the way to Riverdale, the complete Evanston Sub. So this is for spring and summer, so that it's all done by the 1st of August, which is kind of when I started. So first of all, next week we have painting and texturing Castle Rock. I may be adding some additional vegetation, including static grass and shrubbery and things like that. April 4 through 10, going to finish framing the final section of the basement, tape and float the sheetrock, paint walls and ceiling. April 11th through 17th, bench work from Wasatch to Evanston. And then the next week we'll do roadbed and track from Wasatch to Evanston, and then wire and signal Wasatch to Evanston. That will include the Wasatch control point. Then I'm going to skip over to building the helix. And I want to build the helix before I get the yard completely done at Evanston, because the helix is going to be kind of behind the yard, so I want to get that done first. So I think I can do that in a week. We'll see. I stuck a week in there for catch-up, just in case I get behind. That's May 9th through the 15th. Once I get the helix all done, then we'll continue working on the bench work for Evanston. And then roadbed and track for Evanston, wire and signal Evanston. There will be another control point in Evanston. Then when I get all that done, we'll be getting to having bench work to the second level. So the week of June 7th through the 13th, we'll do the bench work and track from Evanston to the second level above Morgan. That could be interesting. I have to go between the stairs and the furnace. Have to move some water lines and things like that, so that could be interesting. The June 14th through 20, we'll do some bench work and track from the helix to the second level above Evanston. So by June 20th, we'll have the bench work going from both directions for the second level. And then the rest of June, which is a couple weeks, and July, we'll complete the entire second level. And that should go pretty quick because it's going to be much simplified compared to the main level. The only areas that really are going to be modeled are the West Vaco Trona mine, where there will be a siding and some switching operations, and then the Aspen tunnels, where there will be some tunnels and some scenery. The rest of it's going to be very simple, basically 12-inch bench work and a double track main line. There will be 3 control points on the second level, so there will continue to be operational interest, but the construction of it and the overall complexity of it will be much simpler than the main level. And then we'll have trains running from point to point and all the way around by August 1st. That's the plan. Hope you stay tuned as we get from here to there. Well, that's all we have for this update. Sorry I didn't make more progress this week. We'll hopefully make up for it this next week doing some scenery, this time for real. Thanks so much for watching. Everybody have a great week this week. Take care.